Hey there, welcome to the Multifamily Mixtape Podcast, brought to you by Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Mark Sharp. Multifamily Mixtape is an eclectic podcast as we will discuss any and all things multifamily, from maintenance how-to videos to interviews with industry experts. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, and join me for some campfire-style conversation and maybe a few laughs. Hey everyone, welcome to the Multifamily Mixtape. I've got my good friend Chris Karamanica with me today. How are you, bud?
I'm doing okay. And yourself, Mark?
Man, I'm hanging in there. It's you know, the weather. It's so stupid here. It snowed last week. You're up in Jersey, like you get this all the time. It's nothing to you, but Thursday morning there was snow on the ground. By 11 o'clock, it was gone. We've had high of 40-ish for the last couple of days. Today, it's up to 70. So shocked and amazed. I'm not, actually. I grew up, this is par for the course here in Greenville.
Yeah, we're having what I call the first fake spring of the new year, where,
that's right.
You know, last week it was sub 30s every night. Now it's like beautiful. I'm looking out my window. It's beautiful, sunny, 55 degrees. And it'll be like this for like 4 days. And then the bottom is going to drop out over the weekend. And it's like fake spring. You know, the birds are out. The grass has started to the grass is like, oh, it's our time. And it's like, nope.
Yeah.
We're going to have a cold snap next week. So yeah, it's an interesting.
It's about how it works.
But again, I've lived up here my whole life too. So for me, I'm like, you know, I like laugh. It's like, oh, it's so warm. I'm like, for the next 48 to 72 hours. And then you know, it's fake spring. Fake spring.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chris, you are the director of facilities for Wynn Residential. Why don't you tell the listeners here about kind of how you got into the multifamily industry? I love your story because you did not know this, but you know, when I first heard your story and I realized, I guess, why you and I have a connection, and it's theater. And, you know, we didn't know that. We didn't know that beforehand. So please tell the listeners how you got into to multifamily.
Yeah, I do. I think it'll be a theme of our conversation today, but I have a tendency of doing everything backwards. So like many people that got into the multifamily industry, it wasn't my first love. It wasn't my first passion. And you just said it. It was theater. Went to college, got a theater arts management degree in upstate New York. At beautiful Ithaca College. I was just there recently. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm a New Yorker born and raised right outside New York City suburb. So I was like, oh, well, I don't want to go back to that place. Like, I'll go try Chicago. So I visited Chicago and I was like, oh, the theater scene in Chicago is great. So let me get a job in Chicago. Then, you know, as I got closer to graduating, I started applying for New York City jobs too. Not that I did not want to go to Chicago, but I was like, let me just see what's out there. And literally one of the first places that answered my resume before I even graduated from college was Blue Man Group. And I started as their assistant theater manager in the summer of 2001. Worked with them for 4 or 5 years and worked my way up from an assistant theater manager to more of a facilities coordinator. And that's how I got into facilities. I had a management degree. So I knew communications, I knew marketing, basic accounting. Then I got into the Blue Man Group operation. New York City, they had 5 different locations, a recording studio for their records. They had a corporate office. They had a scene shop, a training studio, and the actual theater, which is a 200-plus-year-old building, right? So I did that for a few years, really loved it, and was like, you know what, I think it's time for me to move on. And then I ended up where every theater kid in New York City or working in New York wants to go, and they went to go to Broadway. But I wasn't a performer, never have been in a traditional sense. So I was a facilities operations director for 5 historic Broadway theaters in the heart of Times Square.
That's crazy.
And I did that until 2008. The market tanked. As some of the listeners might not even remember because they were too young in 2008. But I remember it, you know, the younger generation of our industry might not even remember. So I was out of work. I was out of work with a newborn. My daughter was 2 weeks old when I got laid off. And I was a stay-at-home dad for 6 months. And I applied for every facility job I could. Yeah. Yankee Stadium, City Museum of New York, you name it. And if they had a facility role, I was applying for it. But then I looked and I said, oh, multifamily housing. I was like, apartments. What? Sure. Maybe I'll get a free apartment, which I could use. I was out of work. And got hired by Avalon Bay as a facilities, a maintenance supervisor at a little 100-unit mid-rise. Literally, I could see the old Giant Stadium from my balcony.
Okay.
And that was, let's see, my daughter just turned 16. So that was just about 16 years ago. And I've been with Wynn for the last 9, coming up on my 10-year anniversary. So yeah, that's my story. And, I just have a different perspective because I came from the arts, and I think that's where I've been so adamant about being out there and educating and just having a different approach to things, because I come from an arts background, not a maintenance background and not a management background. It's very weird.
Yeah. Yeah. But service is service from no matter where you are, like, what word comes before manager. Coming from the theater side of things, the production side of things, and then into the multifamily space. Service is service. And, I'm sure there's a way you could even connect the arts in that service is in some way, shape, or form a performance. You're there to perform for your residents. You like how I did that? Do you like how I just did that? And
I'm a big fan of the segue, as you know. I like that.
I know you appreciate it.
I do. And I was just talking to somebody recently about having an arts background in the theater business. It was your customers were there with you for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. You said hello, made them comfortable. They enjoyed your product and then left, right? Theater's a product. But in multifamily, it's a 24/7, 365 customer service. When you greet them, you're actually greeting them every single day. When you say goodnight, you're saying goodnight every single night. So it's a much different environment, but a lot of the skills translated. And I think that's kind of where I was successful. I knew how to provide good customer service at a very young point in my multifamily career, because that was easy. That was the easy part. The fixing the water heater at 3 a.m. because I had never replaced the heating elements on an electric water heater. That was difficult. Yeah. I learned how to do it, taught myself how to do it, had some good teachers for other things, but the customer service part was easy.
Nice. So are you a Yankee fan?
I like to say I'm sports agnostic. I grew up in a Mets household. Okay. Sorry, Dad. My wife is a diehard Yankees fan. So, it's to me, sports is a little like religion. Like, I'd rather not talk about it, but I know enough to get myself in trouble. So yeah, I don't listen. I like to watch sports, but I don't follow any teams. I know that's like a cardinal sin to a lot of people in this country, but I'm like, I just enjoy watching it. I don't necessarily need to be a bandwagon or a diehard.
Yeah, you mentioned Yankee Stadium earlier, and I was just curious, because there are certain things that are religion, and Yankees baseball is religion. It just is. Like your Steelers, your diehard Green Bay fans, that is a religion. And so I was just curious. I know we've had the sports talk before, but you can be a fan and have never played. And it just seems like, the Yankees are one of those things. The very first Major League Baseball game I ever went to was a Yankee game. And so I'm a Yankee fan, and I will always be a Yankee fan, because that was the first ever experience I had at a professional baseball game. Yeah. And it was in old Yankee Stadium. You talking about the history, the nostalgia, just, typical old school ballpark, so much history there, Monument Park, all the greats. You experience it once, you're hooked. And so
it is a little bit of a drug.
Right, right. I mean, and so if do I seek out games to watch on TV? No. If they're on, will I watch? Yes. When they were trying to get into the World Series, well, they did make it to the World Series, and the Dodgers took them out. But I watched the games. But yeah, I will always be a Yankee fan. It's just one of those things.
I worked a stone, I have so much sports around me. It's hilarious because I'm in Pittsburgh, I'm in Philadelphia, I'm in New York, I'm in New Jersey, so I have the Eagles, the Steelers, the Jets, the Giants, the Yankees, the Pirates, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Flyers, the Penguins.
Wow.
And so when I'm on conversations with my team, I have to know something about all of those teams that are going on because it's important to me as a leader. While I might not be a fan, it's important to me to be able to have a conversation about
Sure.
how did the Steelers do, or how are the Islanders faring.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like I watch games now, and everyone's like, in my house, my wife and daughter look at me and they're like, "Why are you watching sports?" Because I've never been a sports watcher, and I'm like, it sounds ridiculous, but I'm doing it so I'm informed, just like anything else that I would do, and I can have meaningful conversations, members of my team where it really matters to them, where they are diehard fans like yourself, lifelong fans
Yeah.
of a team or a franchise.
Yeah. Outstanding. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good because you never know how you could change someone's day by having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say like at their level, but at their level, like,
What
hey,
matters?
Jim.
I don't think it's at your level, Mark. I think it's more about what matters to them, right? And I
Right.
use the sports, which I think is important, but I think that as people, forget about it as leaders, but as people, just to have some kind of connection,
Yeah.
I think is key. And I have found with a majority of my team members, that is the connection. I have one guy who is a world-class jiu-jitsu master, and he's constantly going to tournaments. We constantly talk about it. It's the first thing I bring up to him. When I see him, hey, when was your last tournament? How'd you do? Tell me about it. But I don't think people are doing enough of that these days, to getting to know,
Right.
Each other on that personal level.
Yeah, that's great, and that's what sets you apart, as a leader. So I mean, yeah, that's a soft skill that I think a lot of people should probably work on. But that's another conversation for another time. But
oh no, we're gonna have to talk again. I'm kidding. We'll cover that at the end.
Yeah, but so one thing I wanted to kind of just discuss with you, and we talked about it briefly before we hit the record button, but I'd been asked from some other association executives about the success that Upper State Apartment Association has in our maintenance program. And so it just brought up like a good conversation point that I wanted to talk to you about because you are involved at the national level. You are in AAEI. You are KMT Advisory Board. You have you have a purpose on these boards at the national level.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to start off basic. And I know you said you didn't come to it the same way I did, which is fine, which is really good actually, because it helps get people involved however they can be, however I did it versus however you did it. We're still involved and we're still trying to do the same thing. But how did you get involved in your apartment association? Tell me the story about how you got into it backwards.
Yeah, so I got into it backwards. But when I started in the industry, I was living in New Jersey at the time, and the New Jersey Apartment Association, shout out to my home state, did a great job with their annual expo. They did an annual toy drive where they would, bus children in. And my company at the time provided me the opportunities to go to those expos, educational sessions, maintenance mania, and those volunteering things. So that's how I kind of started. I started really small, and it wasn't about association work. It was about, hey, my company's doing this, and I'm going to support my company.
Right.
Even won a couple of maintenance, and a feather in my cap, I got them. I won a couple of maintenance mania in my
Nice.
very early, and I wasn't, a 20-year tech like some of the guys that we were competing against. Then kind of died off for several years. And about 6 years ago, I had some conversations with the leadership at Win Residential, my company that I work for. And they said, listen, I want to get more involved. And I didn't know what that looked like. I was working in New York City at the time. The New York City does not have an apartment association. New York State does. There's two in the Albany region and up in the Buffalo, Rochester region. But New York City is a different animal. They don't really need an association because of the way that they're structured. So I couldn't get involved at a local affiliate level. And I just, went to my company and said, I want to do something. And I didn't know what that looked like. I had started doing some internal trainings within Win and things like that. And somebody had the bright idea to sign me up for AFT, the Advanced Facilitator Training with the National Apartment Association. And that was 3 days that completely opened my eyes to not just being a facilitator and a trainer, but also the association at large. And I got back and I wanted to do more. And part of the AFT, part of being an NAAEI faculty member is being able to give back your time to an affiliate or affiliates. And I didn't have a home body to do that.
Right.
But I wanted to give back. So I had some good conversations with the leadership at NAAEI at the time. And they said, presented at Apartmentalize, that counts. We'll try to hook you up with other, maybe committee work or things like that. I was like, oh, okay. So they gave me a path, but then I had to go back to my company and say, can I do this? Right. And they were all for it, to the point where they recommended me to be in Leadership Lyceum and NAA's Leadership Lyceum. And then from there, that's when I put the foot on the gas, right? I did Leadership Lyceum during 2020 COVID year. Yeah. Wow. We were the first, actually. We had our first meeting at Advocate in March, and that was the last time I ever met my other classmates in person because of COVID.
Yeah. Advocate that year was wild. Like
Mark, you were there, wild. Right? That was insane. It was like, hey, the world is about to shut down, and we are like in the center of of DC. So, from there, I graduated Lyceum and started putting in my applications for committees because that was a big part of it. And then one thing led to another, and it was like, you're on one committee, then it's two committees. Then do you want to be the vice chair of the operations committee? Sure. It's a 2-year commitment, 1 year as a vice chair, 1 year as a chair. And then I just kept showing up. And that's what it was about for me. It was showing up. From volunteering at NAA, I got to meet a lot of people that I never knew before, that I would never have any kind of contact with in our business. And I think that goes to, we'll talk, how that works at the local level, I think. But, I was meeting people from Indiana and Michigan and Washington State and California and Texas, people that I would not run into during my normal business day. And I just started building connections. And then people started calling me and said, hey, we have an expo. We're looking for a maintenance speaker. Would you be interested? And I've been doing that for about 3 years now. I do about 3 or 4 a year as my schedule will allow. And then I've been presenting at Apartmentalize since 2020. I recorded a virtual for Apartmentalize in 2020. So that's how I got into it. And I think looking at it from the affiliate level and maintenance professionals in general, that's how you can start. Go to those local events, because that's all I did was that I showed up, right? I showed up at, food drives and toy drives and expos, and I just started to meet people. And then from there, people started to call me, or reach out to me. But I just decided I wanted to get involved. I just did it backwards because most people like yourself come up from the affiliate level and work their way up to the national stage. I did it backwards. I started at the national level, and I've been able to assist affiliates.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess I didn't really think about New York City not having an association because of the way it being structured. So I definitely see how that circumstance, the path you took was the
Yeah.
path of least resistance. It's like, this is what's available. But, we have local, we have affiliates that want to build a maintenance program for their association. They want maintenance involvement, but I be honest. When I was on site working, every day on site doing supervisor tech stuff, and somebody would say, "Hey, there's an event tonight. Do you want to go? There's a dinner tonight." And it's like, no, I've worked my time. I'm going home. Unless I'm getting paid for it, I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
And I did have that mentality for a long time. Well, I say a long time. I had it for a while. And then I had someone say, and they just caught me at the right time. They said, "Hey, there's an association event tonight. It's a happy hour. There's no education, no, nothing. You got to sit down. It's not formal. Come just dressed as you are." And at the time, I didn't have anything else to do. I couldn't talk my way out of it. So I said, "Sure, I'll go." And I went to the local happy hour and I met some people, like you mentioned. I mean, not as big because I wasn't meeting people from Texas and all these other, but I was meeting other properties. I went home, I slept, I got up, I went to work, I went home. I didn't tour other properties. I didn't
Right.
care, and so I started to get involved and I realized, wow, this is a lot bigger than I thought. And then I got involved on the board. It's like, hey, you're a maintenance guy. You come to these things. Let's get more maintenance people involved. Can you serve on the board of directors as a direct member and help us revitalize our maintenance programs? Like, sure, would be happy to. Well, how do we do that? And it said, well, what are your education offerings? Nothing. It was just, we're gonna teach you how to manage your lease files, and we're going to teach you how to do. None of that benefited a maintenance guy. So, we started reaching out to local people who taught maintenance, weren't even affiliated with our association. They were just educators, and just said, "Hey, we want to put some quality education together for maintenance guys." And so that's what started to get these individuals out of their properties, because they saw value. It's okay, I'm now going to be able to maybe hone my skills a little bit more on the maintenance side of things, because when I got into the industry, around the same time, well, before you, but technology has changed so much. We went from handwritten work orders to now putting things in on apps, and now there's so many more ways of doing it. And so you have to keep the education relevant. And that's how we've been able to get maintenance showing up to events, because there was a purpose. I'm not going to waste your time. No manager is ever going to send a maintenance guy from their property off site for a couple hours to do nothing. And it's like, no, I need them on site. They can't go. They can't go. What if there's an emergency? What if? But if you provide good educational content, you provide things that's going to progress and teach them and hone their skills and provide value to their asset, then it becomes a different story. So that's kind of how we ran through it and building up the program. But what we talked about how you got involved, and we talked about you wanting to give back. You wanted to do some things, but how did you? You might have some of this might be repetition, but how did you benefit from it professionally?
Well, you said it, is I learned that there was more out there. Right. And for me, especially as somebody who wasn't turning the wrench at a young age, I had a managerial upbringing. I always say I'm a manager that fell into maintenance, not a maintenance guy that fell into management. I've been saying that for 20 years now.
It's fair.
and it's still true. But what I found is that the reason that I was getting promotions or, getting job offers or moving up was because I had managerial and leadership experiences that peers did not. And I said, well, that's a shame, because I work with some amazing maintenance supervisors and amazing technicians. And every single one of them, I don't like soft skills just as a general term, but I think of it more as management and leadership skills. So what I just started doing was I started talking to people about management and leadership, both internally and externally. And then I was absorbing the technical that they were throwing back at me, right? It was a give or take. Right. You, myself, and Paul Rhodes were together not long ago. And you two went on for about 15 minutes talking about the new refrigerant protocols, the ACLs. And I honestly have no freaking clue. Like, I went home, I just listened to you guys for like 15 minutes. Yeah. And then I went and did my research, right? Yeah. But I was listening to people that were living it, that were way more technically astute in that area than I am. And once I started doing that, I was like, oh, okay. So this is not just a benefit for me personally. Like, I'm giving back and I'm getting something out of it. You know, you were saying, like, how do associations do it, or how should they do it? Back in the day, 6 years ago, it was like,
so long ago.
It's so long ago now, right? And yeah, back in pre-COVID times, and I still can't believe we're saying COVID, 5 years later, but it was an affiliate would throw Maintenance Mania once a year. And it was a good rah-rah opportunity. If your affiliate participated in the Maintenance Mania program. And what was it? It was maintenance guys doing what they do every single day, really, really fast, and then maybe getting an award. That's all it was. And that was for, you want to call it company pride, company, yes, the winners were very happy with their wins, but do you really learn anything doing the exact same thing that you're doing at work, just really, really fast, like changing a lock set or slapping fan blades on a fan motor? Are you really learning anything? No, right? I think one of the best things that NAA did, it's too bad that I'm on record saying this, was to eliminate Maintenance Mania. I'm a big fan of Maintenance Mania.
It's fun.
But it is a lot of fun. But by spotlighting maintenance professionals the way that they are now with the Maintenance Legends program is way different, right? Because it's a level playing field. No matter what your technical ability is, just, are you a good person? Are you doing good things? How does your company receive you? How does your association receive you? Yeah. And we're going to put you in. You could be the slowest painter in the world, but you know what? If nobody's ever got to go back to do a touch up on your job and it lasts for years, you should be recognized for that, right?
Yeah.
But because Maintenance Mania went away, associations were like, oh, well, now what are we going to do for our maintenance guys? And I'm gonna shout out Pennsylvania Apartment Association for a second. I'm not a member, just tangentially I work with them. And I'm exposed. They do maintenance only events, and they are educational conferences. They are expos, right? This isn't their big expo that they do, their annual conference. They're actually gearing things towards maintenance. They're bringing in speakers, like you were saying. They may do a modified version of Maintenance Mania because they like the competition, right? Yeah, we like competition. We were talking about sports at the top. And maintenance, I'm going to make a broad generalization, and it's okay because, it's just the people that are listening, is that, maintenance guys need to be engaged and not just in the classroom. That's why the CAMT program, which you're lucky if your affiliate delivers it on an annual basis, has such a big hands-on component. So affiliates are really thinking outside the box. They're not just getting speakers, they're getting educators. They're actually throwing events. They're throwing happy hours just for maintenance.
Yep.
And what they're doing is they're really starting, and this is where associations need to work on it, is why, and you said it, why is this of value? Whether there's zero cost or a nominal cost for a maintenance professional to attend these events, associations are getting better saying, Mr. Property Manager, Mrs. Property Manager, Mr. Corporate Executive, Miss Corporate Executive, this is why it's beneficial. That's what's been lacking for so long, because nobody has explained the benefits.
That's right.
Is that too much?
No, that is perfect. And you're absolutely, oh God, you're so right. And it seemed it just it's like it's on the back burner, and it
Yeah,
feels like it's always been on the back burner. And you
it
take
has
away,
been,
yeah, you take
but it's
away the
changing. It's
while
changing.
yes, yes, while maintenance mania, was a challenge of speed, not skill, speed. You
Speed.
could set up the games in your shop and you could practice for
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours on how to be the fastest at putting in that IM6 ice maker
Mm-hmm.
or screwing on the supply line to that AO Smith water heater. You could practice and practice and practice, and that's all that mattered at Maintenance Mania. And it was for company pride. It was for, having witnessed Maintenance Mania events and watching the live national stuff out departmentalize and seeing the people in the crowd with the fat heads and the t-shirts and the pom-poms and
It's great.
you can't help but be excited for that. And
Yeah.
but that's one thing. That is one thing. And that fun, exciting thing, while it provided no like educational value, it was fun.
Yeah.
And it was removed. Now, I do like the Maintenance Legends, but and I don't mean to say but. And there's no caveat. I like the Maintenance Legends, and I think you highlighted it perfectly with how you become a legend and how it pinpoints your skills and your tenure and your like the things that you do great. And I love that. I hate that they took away Maintenance Mania because it did provide some fun. And our association, Upper State, we have a member whose company went out and bought all of the stuff,
We just did
and
it.
we're doing I'm not going to say the HD supply term, but we are doing essentially the same exact event with the
You're having
wheels, with the track.
competitions.
Yeah, with the track.
We did the same
with
thing
everything.
internally at,
Yeah,
some of our regions in Wynn had their own,
yeah.
competition setups. We just did one up in our Boston area not long ago, and it was a great, it's a great event. It is fun. And I'm all for fun. I'm not a fun killer, but let's do a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more
Right.
when we are experiencing shortage in labor, when we are experiencing disengaged employees,
Yes.
an event, the guys that were really fast were obviously engaged, but what about the guys who aren't so fast? They were disengaged. An educational session, an expo, a happy hour, a paintball tournament, right? That's something that a lot of people can participate in, no matter what their skill level, and just have that fun, like we were talking about.
Yeah. No, it's great, and I love how the affiliates are taking that and coming up with their own thing to do. We created through our maintenance appreciation committee. We created a maintenance appreciation day. We have a year-long education series that we call Maintenance Trilogy, and then we have pop-ups, we have happy hours, but then we have a maintenance appreciation day. The previous years, we've run it out the bowling alley, and we've gotten pizza, wings, you name it, and it's just fun to bowl. Just do it. Go bowl, go play pool, go throw darts, do whatever you want to do. This year, our association, the appreciation day is this skills challenge, this whatever we're going to call it, and it'll be fun. I mean, because our teams are, they're prideful and they want to win. They want the fastest car. They want all that, and so it's going to be really cool to see how it all plays out. But before we like wrap up, I know we kind of got off there a little bit, but I like it. It's how mixtape is, right? You skip tracks all the time because you're like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. So we're just going with it here. But why would you recommend maintenance to get involved?
So I speak from experience. So I started to get involved, and then I had people underneath me say, how can I get involved? I had my regionals. One of them is on the advisory group for PAA. Another one, is going to industry events now. They're getting out of their comfort zone. So I take that as a badge of honor. And I think that every organization has one or two guys like us. So get those two guys out there. And then it becomes this gigantic pyramid scheme, but in the best way possible. You know, if I go and I get two guys involved and they get two guys involved and they get two guys involved, that's how it happened on the operations side.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to get around to doing it for maintenance. You know, we're starting to see the numbers increase at affiliates of maintenance professionals showing up to events. I was in Connecticut in October, deliver at their expo. I did it 2 years in a row. The first year was 2 years ago, 25 people in the room. This year, there was over 75 maintenance professionals in the room.
Awesome.
It brings a tear to my eye because that's how it starts, right? You get 20 guys in the room. They go back and they sing the praises of whatever event it is. Your bowling, your happy hour, your, skills, whatever. And then other guys and ladies want to get involved and they want to show up, right? Because maybe they just need a gateway. They needed somebody to hold their hand walking through the door. I needed somebody to hold my hand. When I said I wanted to get involved, I thankfully had a great mentor who was right there with me from day one, and he's still with me today. But then I found more mentors.
Yeah.
And more mentors and more connections. And that's the other way that we can do that is just show up. Just go to one. Yeah, you want to go home. We all want to go home. Go out to that event for 2 hours and you're going to find something there.
Yeah.
Or drag somebody with you, right? Listen, I'd love for you to meet some people.
Right.
I'm an introvert. I know it's hard. Mark, you and I have had this conversation. I am an introvert. I do not want to be out there. Yes, I'm doing podcasts and all these presentations and stuff, but it's very difficult for me. So I force myself to do it. Find a way to get somebody involved, and that will have a return for them, but also it's going to have a return for all of us because there's another voice in the room now that didn't exist before.
Yeah. So hypothetically, let's look off into the future, 3-4 years, maybe less, maybe a little bit more. But how long do you think? Because I want to see this. I want to see this. And as I start to become more and more involved in NAA, my AFT got rescheduled. I was supposed to be going to Tampa here in a few weeks. It was rescheduled. So now I'm going in October, I think. But how long until we have a maintenance specific conference for NAA?
That's a hard question. I would like to say in the next 5 years or so. I know it's something that the idea has been thrown around for the last few years. But the problem is there's got to be the industry has to be behind it. It's not an NAA issue, right? When 5% of the apartmentalized attendees identify as maintenance or maintenance leadership, that's 5% of 12,000 people.
Yeah.
Once that number starts to increase, and we are seeing it increase, we're seeing it increase every single year. It's incrementally. It's 0.5% or 1%. I don't want to quote statistics that I don't know, but I know it's increasing every year, right?
Yeah.
Once we start getting to the point where organizations are focusing on maintenance to go to these things, we will hit a break point where an NAA will have a maintenance only conference because we're seeing it at the local affiliate levels now.
Yeah.
Maintenance happy hours, maintenance skill tests, maintenance education sessions. We'll see it. I'd love to say it's the next 5 years. I really hope it's the next 5 years. I plan on being in the industry for another 30. So my goal, hey, listen, even if it's on my deathbed and I get to go to my first ever maintenance only conference, I'm going to be there. I'll be right there on stage. I'll be right there with you, brother.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen. We're going to see it happen. Yeah.
I think we will. I think we will. I think there's a need. I think there's a need for it. And I think if my only, if the only goal I get accomplished by being a voice, by sitting on this, by doing this thing is to get more maintenance involved so that we can have this event. And I know there are other maintenance specific events out there. I know they are. I know they're out there. I'm probably going to be going to one here in May, but I would like to see it. I would love to see a time, and even if it's connected to an existing conference, even if it's connected to Apartmentalize, maybe there's a day or two before the conference that's strictly devoted to maintenance. And I think there's ways, but I think you're absolutely right. It's going to have to start locally. It's going to have to start local affiliate, getting people involved, having people show up. Then it goes to the state. States start doing specific maintenance things. Then it becomes region, and then, but I definitely think that it will happen. It has to happen. And I will, like you, if I'm working my way out, and it's time, I will be at the first one.
Be there. So, Mark, before we wrap up, I want to call back to one of your previous episodes and show you all of my spare screws for those video folks from the last thing that I put together. That was not a plant. I literally have half a bag of screws on my desk. So I just want you to know we're more alike.
I love that.
We are different.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. I felt like such an idiot. I was like, where did these extra screws come from? But
there's nothing like a good podcast callback. So,
oh man, that was great. Well, thank you. I appreciate you getting into this with me and just having the conversation. I mean, I could talk about this at length because it's a passion, and it's one of mine. Obviously, it's one of yours.
Yes.
You mentioned our friend Paul. It's one of his, and I think we're doing some good in the multifamily maintenance sector, and I want to keep going and just pushing the talking points and trying to get the conversation started, and just be a resource to anybody who has questions. But I appreciate you coming on and telling your story, man. I really do. Again, it's just one of those things. I knew there was a connection via theater, and then you said the word Yankees, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's just, it's nuts. It's nuts.
It is. We should do our own show together. Oh wait, that's right.
Oh, good grief. All right, man. Well, hey, get back to it. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me today, Mark. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining the mixtape. We will catch you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thanks again for taking time out of your day to listen to this episode. I hope you found it entertaining and insightful. If you like this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also visit multifamilymedianetwork.com to learn more about our other industry podcasts and sponsorship opportunities. And until next time, don't be afraid to crank the volume.